Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. The Bean Trees. By Barbara Kingsolver. American novelist Barbara Kingsolver's novel The Bean Trees was released in 1988. First-time author Kingsolver's debut novel received generally positive reviews from critics. Kingsolver's book reflects many of her sincerely held convictions as a feminist and an advocate for immigrant rights. It is Taylor Greer's decision to leave her Kentucky hometown and drive west until her used automobile breaks down that serves as the novel's protagonist. Taylor meets a strange woman in a cafe in Cherokee Nation Territory, Oklahoma, who requests that she take her baby with her. Despite Taylor's initial denial, the woman leaves without saying anything else, and Taylor returns to her hotel with the child. Taylor realizes that the baby is a girl and that she has been sexually and physically abused as she is bathing her. Having made that decision, she chooses to take care of the girl and christens her Turtle. Once in Tucson, Taylor finds a new home with Luann, an unmarried woman whose husband had left. Two Guatemalan immigrants who reside across the street from the women are also included in the story. The Bean Trees is told from the perspective of a young woman growing up in a low-income neighborhood in 1980s Pittman County, Kentucky. As Marietta Greer, the story's protagonist, explains at the outset, her mother has always nicknamed her Missy despite the fact that she was born with the given name Marietta. Since she saw a tractor tire explode and send her friend's father flying over the Standard Oil sign, Missy says she's been frightened to inflate tires. Newt Hardbine, Missy's buddy, and her own family are both poor, Missy claims. In the town, one young person from each generation is expected to leave town or go away, and no one could tell if it would be her or Newt this time. Newt dropped out of school to work on his father's tobacco farm while Missy attended high school, despite not being a top student. An old schoolmate of his became pregnant and they got married. Missy decided early on that she didn't want a teen pregnancy, so she started working at the hospital where she lives. Newt and his wife Jolene were brought in while working there one day. Newt had been shot, and Jolene was bleeding profusely from her wound. According to the story, Newt was so wounded psychologically by his father's abuse that he killed both his wife and himself. Missy then makes the decision to leave Pittman County and buy a used Volkswagen to get away from the town. Make sure she can handle the car and change the tires before you go, your mom. Missy intends to drive the car until the gas runs out, then change her name and start a new life in the town she ends herself in. When she finally arrives in Taylorville, she decides to go by the name Taylor. For as long as she can drive her car, she intends to set up shop in a new location and begin a new life. Taylor, on the other hand, finds the vast, open territory of Oklahoma's Great Plains too gloomy to call home once his automobile dies there. In Cherokee Nation Territory, Taylor had a breakdown. However, she was fortunate enough to learn from her mother that she and her siblings have head rights, which means that they have enough Cherokee blood to be entitled to live on Cherokee reservations if they so desire. Rather than leaving right away, Taylor opts to spend the night in town and has dinner at a local diner. She sends a letter to her mother while she's there. Native American man, white cowboy, and a Native woman with a baby in her arms are also present in the diner. The woman follows Taylor out of the diner and hands her the baby. "Take the baby," said the woman. As an implied threat, she advises Taylor to stay away from the diner once she returns. Since the woman does not have a birth certificate, Taylor is baffled and refuses to let her take the baby. There is no one who knows or cares that the baby belongs to the woman's deceased sister. Taylor is left alone with the infant as the woman walks away. When Taylor gets to a hotel, she can't tell if the baby is male or female until she bathes it. Taylor learns the child is a girl who has been sexually and physically abused as she is bathing her. For the first time, Taylor tells Mom about the head rights she's found and that she'll be bringing them along for the ride. In the second chapter, an unnamed narrator introduces us to the character of Luann Ruiz, a former Kentucky resident who now lives in Tucson, Arizona. Pregnant Luann had recently been dumped by her husband, Angel. Luann reminisces about the day her spouse broke up with her. She went to the doctor to check up on her pregnancy on Halloween. She rode the bus home, savoring the extra privacy she was afforded due to her growing belly. The used tire store Jesus is Lord Used Tires, with a giant painted mural of Jesus outside, is the first stop she makes after getting off the bus. When she returned home, she discovered that Angel had abandoned her and was astonished by the items he had taken. That he just brought novelty goods and nothing practical reveals her more about him than their 5 years of marriage, she believes. Because her feet are so swollen, Luann can't get her shoes off at night. She weeps as she goes to bed. The narrative shifts back to Taylor's in the third chapter. Even though Taylor has no money, She manages to stay at the hotel in Oklahoma through Christmas by doing chores for the compassionate owner and earning her keep. Baby Turtle is the moniker she has given it due of its tight grip. After the New Year's holiday, Taylor and Turtle leave Oklahoma for Arizona, where Taylor plans to stay. When Taylor learns that she has 2 flat tires, she pulls over and discovers Jesus is Lord used tires nearby. Although Maddie is friendly, Taylor realizes that she cannot afford to get new tires for her vehicle. To make up for her resentment, Maddie offers Taylor and Turtle a cup of coffee in the house. When Taylor inquires about the store, Maddie tells him that it was founded by her late husband, a devout Christian. There is no way Taylor can afford new tires, so Maddie recommends she work for her for a bit. As Taylor explains to her, she has expertise in the following areas: cleaning, x-rays, urine tests, and red blood cell counts. In addition to removing bugs from the beans vines, it's a good idea too. Maddie is overjoyed, since she has a slew of bean vines she was gifted. The tire shop is within walking distance, so Taylor and Turtle choose the Hotel Republic as their new home. Because it is such a different kind of city from where she has previously lived, Tucson appeals to Taylor. She rapidly develops a friendship with a burger derby waitress. The story shifts back to Luann's point of view at this point. Luann's mother and grandmother are visiting to see her new baby, Dwayne Ray, and Angel has temporarily moved back in to keep up appearances for them. An old Coke bottle filled with hazy water is brought to Luann by her grandmother, Granny Logan. Granny Logan informs her it's river water from Luann's baptism on the Tug Fork River. Luann is instructed by Granny Logan to use the water to baptize Dwayne Ray. Luann's mother and grandmother are about to leave, and she has a fleeting thought of traveling back to Kentucky with them, only to realize that they will most likely argue the entire time. Luann nursing Dwayne Ray when Angel arrives to collect his belongings and move back in. A bottle of Tug Fork River water catches Angel's eye, and he inquires as to its purpose. After being told, he flushes it away. After only a few weeks on the job, Taylor is dismissed after getting into an argument with her employer. She begins searching for a low-cost location to stay. She sees an ad in the paper that she likes, and the second one reads, in part, "New moms need company. Rent is low and I guarantee not to bother you. As far as the children are concerned, everything is okay. For further information, please see the following link." Faye, a lady who lives in a collective with Laisha and Timothy, is the first person to post an ad. When it comes to living with a non-caffeine, soy milk drinking commune, Taylor finds them too hippie-ish. Next door to Jesus is Lord used tires, Luann's residence is another option for lodging. Luann and Taylor have an instant connection. Within 5 minutes of realizing they're both from Kentucky, they're laughing and sipping Pepsi together. To Luann's surprise, Taylor reveals how she got to be Turtle's protector. Dwayne Ray and Luann barely scrape by, and Luann is ready for Taylor to move in, but she admits that she and Turtle are too clever and empowered for them. Just an ordinary redneck from East Jesus nowhere with this adoptive child that everybody keeps telling me is dumb as a box of rocks, Taylor tells Luann in the episode. It pleases Luann that Taylor seems to speak in the same manner as her. Taylor can move in right away, thanks to her agreement. Taylor agrees to work at Maddie's tire store despite her dread of inflation. According to Maddie, tire explosions are proportional to their size and that car tires do not explode in the same manner as tractor tires. Taylor gets 2 new tires as part of Maddie's new job contract with her. While Taylor is at work, Luann takes care of Turtle. Taylor learns from Maddie that she views her home as a refuge for those in need. She currently shares a home with a group of Spanish speakers. In and out, people arrive and leave and are frequently transported by Father William to another location. A book for Turtle and a card for her mother are on the list of purchases Taylor makes while out shopping. In order to select a name for Turtle, Luann buys a book of child names from the library. Luann accepted Taylor's invitation to join her for a drink one day when Taylor was in a bad mood because she was annoyed that she and Luann were acting like an old married couple, or in her words, like Blondie and Dagwood. Luann admits that she does not enjoy drinking because she is constantly concerned that she may become inebriated and cause an accident. With Angel and a few other friends, she tells Taylor that they once went stargazing while intoxicated. On the next day, Angel reminded her of the meteor shower they'd witnessed the night before and she confessed to having no recollection of what they'd seen. Angel may have walked out on her because of her shame, she's afraid. If Angel made up the meteor shower to make her feel horrible about herself, Taylor wonders if she's ever considered that possibility. There is a possibility, however remote, that Luann is correct. According to Taylor, Pieces are included for all installations, but no installation requires all of the parts. She shares this idea with Luann. As far as Taylor is concerned, no man in the world has the potential to make full use of her complex personality. Luann is in fits of giggles at this. Even though it's March in Arizona, Luann and Taylor advise inviting Maddie along for a picnic. Esteban and Esperanza, a husband and couple from Guatemala who live with Maddie, are also part of the crew this time around. Esteban tells Taylor that the infant looks like a youngster they used to know back home, while Esperanza appears to be fascinated by Turtle. Despite Luann's advice, Taylor swims nonetheless, reassured by Taylor's assurances that it will be fine. In order to escape a collision with a family of quail crossing the road, Turtle does a flip out of his car seat on the way home. However, this merely makes the baby laugh and Taylor thinks she's doing fine as a mother if the child's first sound is a chuckle. When Turtle and Taylor are helping Maddie in the garden, Turtle says her first word, bean. All of Maddie's pals have gathered to see her on the news. That Maddie talks about human rights and refuge in the United States for immigrants surprises Taylor. Also in attendance are two senile ladies named Mrs. Parsons and Edna Poppy, who hurl insults at immigrants in front of Esteban and Esperanza. That her mother is getting remarried disillusions Taylor, who soon learns about her mother's new relationship. This is the time of her life and she shouldn't feel guilty about taking pleasure in it, as Luann puts it. While at work, Luann discovers that Angel had been by her house and confesses to Taylor that she would probably allow him to move back in. Esteban dismisses Taylor's apology for his remarks towards the elderly neighbor. Both like complimenting the other's accents and think the other's English is flawless. The baby's history of abuse has stunted her growth, which Taylor learns when she takes her to the doctor. Although she appears to be 3, her true age belies her diminutive stature. This disease can be reversed with proper treatment, according to Taylor's doctor. There's a reason why Angel only came back, says Luann, and it's all about him telling Taylor about his plans to join the rodeo. They argue because Taylor is relieved. Taylor mentions the month of April during the debate, and Turtle's eyes widen. As a result of this, April, Turtle's real name, is revealed to the two women. Overdosing on aspirin is what Esperanza tries to do to end her life. Esteban's companion, Taylor, remains with Maddie when she is taken to the hospital by Maddie. Esteban and Taylor have a conversation, and Taylor discovers that she is drawn to him. Ismene, Esteban's daughter, was kidnapped by Guatemala's corrupt government while she was still living with him and his wife back in Guatemala. They fall asleep together on the couch and Taylor wakes up feeling sorry about Esperanza and kisses Esteban's hand before going to sleep. Taylor sees Esperanza after she gets home and apologizes for the loss of her baby. In response to this, Esperanza breaks down in tears and tells her that she hopes she would never give up on her dreams. Before Dwayne Ray was born, Luann tells Taylor that she had a tendency to worry. His demise by the year 2000 was predicted by a dream she experienced, which she took to be prophetic. Since then, she has been concerned about his well-being. A worried mother is a good mother, according to Taylor. When Luann receives a letter from Angel, he explains to her how much he misses her and wants her and the baby to come live with him. Either Luann will take his offer up, or Esperanza and Esteban will be discovered and deported. In order to be granted asylum in the U.S., people must provide proof that they are fleeing imminent death in their home country. Luann is agitated when she arrives home one day. She claims that Mrs. Parsons was watching her in the park when something happened to Turtle. As Mrs. Parsons, who was elderly and blind, was unable to defend herself or the baby, a guy attacked them. There are still no signs of life in Turtle's eyes, and Taylor is concerned. In the course of their investigation, the police were summoned and a medical examiner found no evidence of molestation but did notice minor bruises on Turtle's shoulder. Even though Luann wants to know who did this, Taylor is in a state of disbelief. In the wake of the tragedy, the police establish that Taylor has no legal claim to Turtle. Taylor is informed by a social worker that Turtle is a state ward. It's Luann's idea to fight for a stake in the child, but Taylor is depressed and has already given up on the idea. With newfound confidence, Taylor discusses Oklahoma's child custody laws with the social worker after talking to Maddie about the issue. Reuniting with Turtle's family in Oklahoma is Taylor's goal after receiving a phone number from a social worker. Because of chance, Maddie had found a new home for Esperanza and Esteban in Oklahoma and asked Taylor if she could bring them along on her trip. If Taylor is caught bringing illegal immigrants across state lines, this is a hazardous journey. When Taylor asks who Turtle belongs to during a normal immigration check on the New Mexico border, Esteban implies that Turtle is his and his wife's daughter and Taylor freezes. During the car ride, Esperanza begins calling Turtle Ismini, which causes Taylor to worry that she is becoming too close to the baby. When the gang returns to Oklahoma, they discover that the kind woman who operated at the inn where Taylor first stayed with Turtle has since passed away. To Taylor's surprise, when they return to Oklahoma, they realize that the wonderful woman who worked there has died. Traveling to the Ozark Mountains in an attempt to locate Turtle's kinfolk, the group visits the headquarters of the Cherokee Nations. Most of the time they fail, but one time while Taylor and Turtle were driving by a cemetery, Turtle shouted, "Mama!" And Taylor realized that Turtle's original mother had died. She explains to the youngster that she wants to raise her and believes that Turtle shares her sentiments. As Turtle's guardians, Esperanza and Esteban accompany Taylor to a lawyer's office where they sign documents authorizing Taylor to adopt Turtle. As Esperanza continues to sob, Taylor knows that the mother is grieving for the loss of her own child. Esperanza, on the other hand, informs them that she was forced to give up her child and that she and her husband may be able to have additional children once they have settled down. Turtle is placed for adoption with Taylor after the couple signs a legal paperwork authorizing them to do so. To get to the church, Taylor has them get into his car. The Reverend and his wife have agreed to take them in as guests. When they leave, Taylor is especially heartbroken since she believes she has fallen in love with Esteban. Afterward, Taylor tells her mother that she has lost her love on a payphone after he kisses her goodbye. She is comforted by her mother, who informs her that Taylor has adopted a kid of her own. After a brief conversation, Taylor learns from Turtle that she intends to see Luann and calls her Ma Wuan when she tells her so. There is only one Ma in the world, and that is Taylor. The new April Turtle Greer, she tells her, is her real name now. Taylor makes a phone call to Luann to find out whether she'll be moving in with Angel soon. New guy? Luann maintains she isn't dating anybody else, and insists she isn't dating anyone else. Then Taylor and Turtle are her families and she plans to stay with them. That Taylor has taken care of Turtle makes Luann happy. Taylor and Turtle return to Tucson from the state of Oklahoma. Taylor Greer, the main character of the novel. With the intention of moving to a new location whenever her car breaks down, Taylor is an adventurous woman who leaves her hometown and heads off on her own. The novel's core is Taylor's wacky and amusing voice. Astonishment at the customs and landscape of the American Southwest is shown in her unique perspective. In the end, Taylor only chooses to live in Tucson because it is so outrageous and unlike anything else she has ever experienced. Taylor keeps her wits about her as she copes with poverty and the unexpected arrival of a child. At times, Taylor appears to be naive, but she grows more aware of the hardships that others are going through, particularly those of Esteban and Esperanza as well as that of Turtle. Almost without thinking, Taylor begins to care for society's outcasts since she has such a good heart and can relate to their suffering. Taylor's story does not revolve around finding a guy, but rather on the ladies in her life, unlike many more typical female protagonists. Luann, Taylor's roommate and eventual best friend. It was Luann's premonition months before she gave birth to her first child that prompted her to worry about her son's safety. In some aspects, Luann surpasses Taylor in terms of femininity and womanliness. Her hope for her husband's return and her firm belief that love should endure no matter what happens after he leaves her are both expressed in her letter. As a result, Luann moves to Tucson and stays despite the wishes of her female relatives who want her to return home. Luann transforms from a typical housewife to a strong and capable single mother during the course of the story. Eventually, she and Taylor start a family of their own with the kids. Esteban, the Guatemalan man who brings his wife to America and stays with Maddie for a few months to avoid being arrested as an illegal immigrant. Esteban is the only male character of significance in the book, and he is the only one who grows. As the antithesis of the stereotypically macho American male, Esteban exudes a sense of serenity and goodness. To the predatory and evil characters in the book like Turtle's abuser and Angel, this nice man serves as a counterpoint. Because he is a man of color and an undocumented immigrant, he may have a deeper understanding of the predicament of women in the workplace. Because of his identity, he has witnessed death and destruction. Esteban and Taylor begin a relationship that, despite Taylor's best efforts, remains platonic. It's evident that Esteban regards Taylor as a close friend and tells her about the day his daughter was kidnapped and how it has had an impact on his wife. Turtle, Taylor's adopted daughter. A young girl abandoned by her aunt is picked up by Taylor and left in front of a diner. Because of his past of sexual and physical abuse, Turtle is intellectually and physically undeveloped. Turtle is Taylor's pet moniker for the girl because of the way she holds on to things. When Turtle is satisfied that Taylor will take care of her as she grows, she begins to communicate more and catch up with her development. Owner of Jesus is Lord used tires as Maddie, a lady. To the book characters, she served as a mother figure. Most readers will be surprised by the character of Maddie, a reticent woman of religion who turns out to be a brave and knowledgeable defender of immigrant civil rights. While Maddie is a great supporter of Taylor, she doesn't encourage her to perform any heroic deeds. Maddie's support for immigrants goes far beyond the pages of the book, and her friends are taken aback when she reveals this to them. On April 8, 1955, Barbara Kingsolver was born in Annapolis, Maryland. When she was a young girl, her physician father uprooted the family and relocated them to the rural town of Carlisle, Kentucky. Kingsolver's parents worked in public health in the Democratic Republic of the Congo while she was a youngster, and the family lived there for a brief period. As a student at Indiana's DePauw University, Kingsolver became involved in anti-Vietnam War action that would last the rest of her life. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in 1977 and spent a year abroad in France before relocating to Tucson, Arizona. After working as a science journalist at Arizona's University of Arizona in the 1980s, Kingsolver went on to write for the Tucson Weekly newspaper. She entered another local newspaper's short story contest shortly after and won. This was the beginning of her writing career. Kingsolver married Joseph Hoffman in 1985 and had a daughter named Camille 2 years later. A few years after The Bean Trees, Kingsolver published a sequel, Pigs in Heaven, which rapidly became a breakout success, 1993. Kingsolver and her daughter relocated to the Canary Islands in 1990 because she became displeased with the United States' role in the first Gulf War. A year and a half after her return to the United States, she divorced her first husband and married Steve Hopp, with whom she eventually had a daughter named Lily. After its publication in 1998, The Poisonwood Bible became Kingsolver's most well-known work. The book was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize and awarded the South African National Book Prize for its outstanding achievement in literary achievement. In 2000, Kingsolver established an award to help authors who have yet to publish works that represent social justice issues. The Bellwether Prize is given out on an even-numbered year basis. She received the National Humanities Medal from President Clinton in the same year. There have been 3 more books by Kingsolver since then: Prodigal Summer, 2000, The Lacuna, 2009, and Flight Behavior, 2012. A year later, Kingsolver and her family made the move to Washington County in Virginia. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.